A literary discussion with Lisa M. Kendrick about Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut Jr. was one of the most acclaimed satiric writers in America. After working briefly as a journalist, he began writing short stories in the late 1940s and continued writing stories, novels, dramas, and essays for more than 50 years. His fiction is mostly about war, brutality, and technology, told with a dark humor, elements of fantasy, and some absurdity. The plot of a story is driven by conflict, or a struggle between opposing forces. In some stories, the conflict is between the main character and society. In Harrison Bergeron, for example, the title character struggles with U.S. society in the year 2081. A skill associated with reading is being able to draw conclusions. When we draw conclusions, we make judgments based on story details and our own knowledge. We should consider the following thoughts when reading this selection. What results from a society's practices and laws? What do you speculate about the motives of the officials in this selection? The word utopian comes from Sir Thomas More's book titled Utopia. This story describes an attempt to create a utopian or perfect society in the United States by abolishing all kinds of competitions. For centuries, writers have described and fantasized about perfect societies, from everyone to Plato to George Orwell and Aldous Huxley. There are specific details in this story that describe society in the year 2081. There are such things as laws that require conformity, and this is maintained even in private homes. The government requires that intelligent people wear government transmitters, which limit their ability to think. This society is repressive and intrusive. It took away the Bergeron's young son, Harrison. In this story, what is the effect of society on government and people? This society allows the government to disrupt people's thoughts by blasting them with noise. It does not allow people, like ballerinas, to be any better than anybody else. It makes them wear sash weights and bags of birdshot. George thinks about his abnormal son because above average looks and ability are considered illegal. Harrison despises his handicaps, while Hazel, his mother, is considered average and has no handicaps. On the other hand, Harrison's father, George, has quite a few handicaps, but he refuses to lighten his load. He doesn't want to go to prison or be fined. He thinks about how lightening his own load might affect others, and he seems resigned to the government. At 7 feet tall with an attractive physique, Harrison looked like a walking junkyard, the text tells us. He was required to wear a rubber ball for a nose, keep his eyebrows shaved off, and cover his even white teeth with black caps. The ballerina that he chooses to dance with wears a hideous mask, and her handicap bags were as big as those worn by 200-pound men. When Harrison has the musicians play, he strips them of their handicaps and threatens them to actually play well. He declares himself emperor and says he is a greater ruler than any man who ever lived, directly challenging the government's authority. He removes all of his handicaps, which is against the law. He knows that he will not face a pretty end, yet he does it anyway. The climax of this selection is when Diana Moon Clampers, the handicapper general, comes into the studio and uses a double-barreled 10-gauge shotgun to shoot both Harrison and the ballerina. The resolution of this story is our conversation that we hear between George and Hazel, where it shows us that due to their handicaps, they are unable to even remember what has happened to their son right before their eyes.